Hey, welcome back to Slick Willy Fly. So today we are going to explain how I choose my marabou and how I prepare my marabou for the big tasty. What you see here is a blended white and chartreuse with Mirage Flashabou, Opal, Mirage Opal Flashabou, and I did a little tiny bit of Crystal Flash down the center. So we are going to prep the feathers for exactly this fly. So we're going to start out with a little first explanation of how marabou is sold. So predominantly what I purchase most is strung marabou. Strung marabou is the individual feathers, a very nice individual feather. This is a very nice example of a strung marabou. Straight stem, wispy fibers here on this feather. This is a feather that I can definitely use in a big tasty fly. This is a nice feather right here. A lot of action. Here's an example, same exact package, not nearly as good quality. You could see here that when they dyed this feather, the dye stuck hard. Now I can usually get a toothbrush, an old toothbrush or a new toothbrush that I use only for flies, and I can brush this out and I can make this a good big tasty feather. Another example is here's a pretty nice feather. Very big, very long, very wispy, very straight. But this one is thin. This is what I would call a thin feather. So I would use this on most likely on a smaller fly, like when I reduce to a size 6 feather. Here's a little bit better out of the exact same package, but this one has got a little bit more fibers to it. Again, it's still a nice straight stem, and a lot more feather, a lot more fiber in this feather. So what exactly is strung marabou? Strung marabou is not a quality. It's not a size. All strung marabou means is that when you open the package and you take out the feathers, that they are stitched together, like here. So that's all it is. It's stitching. And when I open up these packages, in this case white, and I start going through them, you're going to find right away that there's different size. There's a short one, and definitely different quality. They're just not all equal. So I would say, as far as my big tasty flies are concerned, like here's a quite, it's not a whole lot I can do. I can maybe make a tail out of that. That's a really short feather and a very thick stem. So I would say that I get about a 60-40 ratio out of a bag of marabou. 60% is good for a big tasty. And once you come to terms with that, that's just what it is. So here's like the way they actually come packaged. So what other types of marabou are there? Well, there's select. And what select is, they're usually very nice feathers and they're very long. And the very first thing you're going to notice with a select is this very thick, hard stem. So the bottom half of this feather, can't really use the stem for anything, so I end up peeling off the marabou and I use them in all different kind of flies. It is definitely not garbage, but the stem is very hard. The top half is the same as the feather that I just showed you, the blood quill. So once you get up here into this top half, I can definitely use the top half of this feather to make a big tasty, and I often do. So that's what select is. And they cost a little bit more than strung, so I wouldn't buy these if you're focused on a big tasty, but it all really depends on what kind of flies that you're going to be making. And then the last example that I have, it's called Woolly Booger, and this is definitely a size. And here's a good example out of the same pack of a Woolly Booger marabou. And I mean, I'm assuming based on the name, that is an easy assumption that these are designed for people who tie a lot of woolly boogers. Now, I personally think that this feather is too short for a woolly booger. I don't use these when I tie my woolly boogers, but that's me. I'm sure that I'm not the normal. I bet Most people think that this size is perfect for a woolly booger. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and prepare for a big tasty. I'm just gonna clean here. Wow. Oh, my battery must be dead. That's not good. All right, well, we're gonna have to clean later. So what I have beneath here, closest to me, is a few strands of Flashabou in Mirage Opal. That's the flash that I'm going to use for this fly. And when I make this fly, basically, as you can imagine, we're going to combine two feathers. So it doesn't really matter if I put the chartreuse feather down or the white feather down and the other one on top. I have found that it doesn't really make a big difference which feather goes first. So I tend to say that I want to use my best feather on top only because that makes it easier for me to push everything down into the magic tool. What I'm using here is the Mark Materisl is the maker, and he calls this the magic tool, and I am not trying to promote this, not at all sponsor or anything. This just happens to be how I make the fly, and I'm sure there are other ways. All I'm doing, what this device helps me do, is I capture all the feathers in a straight row, and I'm able to remove the stem. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm sure that in the comments I'm going to find out that there's a lot of different ways to do that. So I lay my feather dead center, or as close to dead center as possible, and then I come with my Flashabou, and I just lay my Flashabou on top, and I try to cut it the length of the feathers, as you see there. And I had a couple of pieces left over from a previous fly, and I'm just going to throw them in. Why waste them? So once they're sitting there, and this is interesting, that one worked really well. Sometimes, and I have no explanation why, the Flashabou gets like static cling and wants to stick to your fingers, and it becomes a nightmare. And I really don't know why it does that, but it just happens. Maybe I need to wash my hands more often. I have no clue why. I've tried all different things. I've tried Googling it. Haven't really figured out why. So then you place your second feather right on top, and you take everything and you just push it down into the magic tool, just like that. And once it's in, I use my fingers to just make it as straight as I can. Now some people, I find that this doesn't make a bit of difference, but some people will cut the remaining off the end. Maybe it makes it easier for some people. It doesn't really bother me, but you absolutely can do that, just like that. It doesn't hurt anything. And once you have it to that point, you come with your second half of the magic tool, and all you're going to do is nice and straight and careful, and you're going to capture all your fibers just like this, and now you can remove the stem. So you come in here and carefully just right under the stem, nice and neat, and you just remove the stem. So now what you have is white and chartreuse, or you could do any color. One of my favorite colors is black and orange, pink and purple, anything you want, olive and chartreuse, or black and yellow. There's so many different, it's only limited by your imagination. But this is absolutely ready for a big tasty, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you come back, because I think I'm going to make another video where we tie a chartreuse white big tasty, and that will look just like this. So subscribe, like, and come back. Thank you for watching.